So welcome to Solitude Farm. My name is Krishna. I've been living in Auroville for the last 31 years. I was a student in J. Krishnamurti School. I'm a musician, but I was also doing quite serious research in biochemistry. And I was also doing a lot of theater. And I was also helping run the garden. So at that time, the garden was run by a guy called Freddie, who is a German guy, and in the 70s and the 80s, he lived in Auroville. So he started to tell me about Auroville and riding horses bareback and building your own house and planting trees, and how that there was nothing here, and how they pioneered this land by honoring Mother Nature and reclaiming that sort of relationship with the nature, allowing it to regrow. And that inspired me enormously. So I came here when I was 19, and it was at that time I discovered my guru's teaching. That's Masanobu Fukuoka, who is the author of a very famous book called The One Straw Revolution. You don't know. We don't know. 99.9% of us, we have no idea where the food we eat comes from. We don't know how it's grown, who grew it, where it was grown, if chemicals were used, and if they were used, which chemicals were used, and how much chemicals. And then how was it processed? Were there some spraying or radiation, or God knows, we just don't know, And then how is it transported, packed, stored? So this relationship of where the food is grown to my plate is like a gray zone. No one knows about it. And yet we eat 3 times a day. Losing the relationship where the food comes from is essentially a loss of relationship with our Mother Nature. We also lose our culture. So there's an erosion of cultural well-being because we don't know where the food comes from. You start thinking, culture? What's culture got to do with it? You think about your language, let's talk about the Tamil culture, because we're in Tamil Nadu. So we have the most ancient language in the world. It's over 40,000 years old. Then you have the Siddha tradition, and you have the Sangam period poetry, you have the Bharatanatyam, the Carnatic music, the temples that the architects don't even know how to build anymore. You have this culture that's like this huge banyan tree, and foreigners, North Indians, Tamilians alike, they all, wow, this culture is just amazing. How did it grow? People knew where their food came from. In the Upanishad, it's written that there are different kosh, which is the sheaths of existence. So they say first is Annamaya kosh. So Annamaya kosh is a body, it's food. Then there is the Pranamaya kosh, which is energy. And then there is the Manomaya kosh, which is mind. So without food, and a relationship where that food comes from, there's no mind. So there's this pride of language, Actually, we lose that culture, like small kids, who are eating all foods from industrialized agriculture. They don't know what Ponangani kere is. They don't know what Moratakan is, or Tudavali, or Karnakelinga, or Seppankelinga, all the traditional foods of the Tamil culture. And then you imagine when they grow up and they have kids, that's gone. Like in England, the traditional foods, we have no culture in England. Our culture is beer and football. There's a complete erosion of cultural identity. And so as you go into this subject, you start to see, we're looking at local foods. We're looking at the foods that grow around us, because the foods that grow around us have very particular characteristics. So first characteristic of local food, easy to grow, no expertise. Second characteristic, abundance, non-exclusivity. It's a very, very beautiful characteristic of local food, non-exclusivity. The third characteristic of local food is very high medicinal and nutritional value. This isn't just a farm, this is a pharmacy. You name the disease, there is a solution for it here. Mother Nature, she wants us to be well. She's like, let me express myself, and my full glory is there. But what do? No, we want money. We plow the land, we put one crop of peanuts or something like this. Anything else that comes up, we take it out because we got to get the money back. We spent 15,000 rupee to grow an acre of peanuts. We need that money back. We're not stupid. I got to pay for my daughter's wedding and my mother-in-law's medical bills. That's the paradigm that we're in. But if you start to explore a food forest like this and allow the plants to become more permanent, what we call permaculture, a permanent agriculture, then you start to see that you've actually planted a menu. So everywhere you look, there's a menu. This is called chaya, for example. So the chaya has the similar properties to the drumstick spinach. You break off a stick and you plug it in the ground and it grows. There's nothing you have to do. Now, it has a slight toxicity in the leaf. You shouldn't have it raw. You have to boil it for 15 minutes. It's called Mayan tree spinach or chaya. And you boil it 15 minutes, you strain it, then you cut it and you fry it with a bit of ginger, garlic, and you eat it. We feed it to huge groups here, you know, like recently there was, I think, 60, 70, you know, very wealthy Gujarati yoga teachers. They came and they were all like, oh, wow, so nice. What's that? It's a weed, you know. It's literally a weed. It grows on the fence. But they loved it. And you read about it. It has very high medicinal nutritional value. And do we do anything to grow it? No. It has ecological value, medicinal value, cultural, social value, you know, and a technical value because it grows on a fence and the cows and the goats won't eat it. But will you find that in a restaurant? No. Because that knowledge is not there, you know. So the green papaya, when we harvest it before it's orange, and you peel it, and you grate it, and you cook it, people say, oh, carrot's very nice today. No, it's green papaya. You put chunks in the curry, people say, oh, chow chow is very nice. No, it's green papaya. You make a halwa, gaja halwa, kebat. No, it's not gaja halwa, it's a green papaya halwa. And then you can make a soup with the lemongrass, coconut milk. It's Michelin star. You know, and then you can cook it with peanuts and this. People think pumpkin is nice. It's so diverse, so, you know, so versatile, but it's a weed. Literally, it's a weed. Now, you have this beautiful project that's started by Indian government, I think in the 80s, called the Midday Meal Scheme, where they give a free meal to all the government schools, you know, the lunch, which is a wonderful project, but doesn't mean it can't be improved. There's 20 farmers, and they're all feeding this midday meal center who's cooking for all these schools. Those farmers are benefiting, but also there's an ecological benefit. When you think about potatoes or carrots, you know, because it's a carrot substitute, carrots don't grow here really. So they come from Ooty or Kodaikanal. So to bring them here, you have to build a lorry. Now, if you build a lorry, you have to think it out. What do you need to build a lorry? First, we have to build a factory for the metals. Then next to that, there's a factory for the tires. There's a factory for the electronic components, another for the plastic, another for the glass. There's one for the paint. Then there's factories for the engine. Then there's factories for the pipelines, for the petroleum. Then there's the oil refinery, the oil tanker. You know, and then there's the nuclear power station to run these factories. You are looking at hundreds of kilometers of factories to build a lorry. And then we sit in Auroville and we have our potato chips while we talk about pranayama and solar panels, you know. This is the irony, you know. This is the irony. We talk about sustainability, but actually in our lives, the root of sustainability lies in food because it's our repetitive action. It's 3 times a day we're eating. And there is our most damaging action to this planet is industrialized agriculture. It's the main contributing factor to climate change. So under this tree is growing tipali, which is a very beautiful local food, which is very ancient in the Tamil culture. And it exemplifies again this sort of saying that unavu maranda, food is medicine. It has, now it's not really the season, but it has these long black peppers on them. And there's a little bit in growing somewhere else. So we use it in a rasam today. And it stimulates the digestive fire, which is the gateway of health. It also is good for COVID and cancer. And we also use the leaves. But also it has a technical value because nothing else will go under this tree. You know, plants need light, but not this tree, not this plant, not the tipali. So you start to see that these local food, they have a lot of different characteristics, whether it's technical or whether it's that they have different parts of them that can be valued. Like you take the banana is the classic example. You use the banana stem, you use the banana flower, you use the banana, and you use the banana leaves. And it's the same for many, many plants like the rosella, the gungura, the pulchtikere. We use the leaves, we use the flower, we use the fruit, we use the seeds to make a coffee substitute. And we even use the stem to make a rope. You know, Mother Nature, she says, look, I've got all of this, you know, but what do we want? Only that which makes money. You know, so it's a very myopic. You're looking at creating a menu with these local foods. And if we could get that on a lunch scheme, not only, as I was saying, are the profits nutritional and health, but they're also social, you know, cultural, economic benefits. And I would also say, and ecological, because you know, they don't have a carbon footprint. People fight about anything with a concept, an opinion, a belief, an ideology. But you put the drumstick spinach between us, we'll both go, nalla irukka. This tastes nice. So you start to see the local food is the lowest common denominator. It's the base value that makes us all equal. You know, food is the great leveler. The society that doesn't know where its food comes from is a society without culture. Humanity without culture will perish. That is the page we're on. This problem is not farmers' problem. Farmers know all this. It's a consumer's problem, you know. It's the consumer's duty to start to demand these foods and start to try and, you know, create co-ops and relate to the farms. Farms have to be supported. Without supporting farms, there can be no, you know, growth in, you know, evolution within a society. The farm is the foundation of that. And yet we have no idea of this relationship, you know. It's very ironic. So I'd say that there are 3 basic steps on a road back to nature if we try and simplify this narrative, you know, just to try to inspire people, you know. So I would say the first step is to recognize the importance of organic matter. Because without returning organic matter, how can soil be healthy? You know, this is the first act of love. The first gift of Mother Nature is all these leaves and weeds. Return them to the soil and your soil starts to become healthy. And when the soil is healthy, the plants will grow well. When the plants are growing well, there's no insects, there's no pests. Pests are created by man, by having a too dominant nitrogen in the soil or having, you know, too many chemicals or pushing a plant to grow rather than having a balanced nutrition. The second step on the road back to nature is to honor all these gifts of Mother Nature that grow around us and honor them in a menu. You know, they are your diet. Muringakere, it has to be on the menu. For any Tamilian in any village or with a basic knowledge of their culture, they'll be like, duh, you know, obviously, anyway we eat it at least twice a week, you know, or more. You know, it's obvious thing. But for so many people, the more they are C++ and, drive the Innova to the work, to chick chang ping 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 bang, you know, that sort of knowledge has to be reminded. You know, to eat muringakere. And what do? They start buying it in a capsule. And the third step of this narrative, I would say, is community. Without community, you can't do anything. You know, this subject doesn't work without community. The best thing in Auroville has been efforts that we've made starting community garden projects. So we've done community garden projects in many, many communities, in many schools, done many workshops and, you know, tried to be a catalyst for people to start this work. We have a project that we're trying to launch where we're going to do drumstick spinach in every college of Tamil Nadu and hopefully move to every college in India. So it's a very, very, very grandiose project. Because without people eating local food, there can't be any change. You know, talking about sustainability and organic farming is useless. It has to be practical. People have to eat this food. So kids at schools, at colleges, that's where it's at, you know. So our plan is to have a Muringakire project, which will be a bit like a open source software. You know, it's not like it's not someone's business, it's not someone's personal gain. It's a collective project run by everybody, and the students would be responsible for running nurseries of the drumstick, getting them planted, helping in the harvest, and maybe documentation. But they're basically eating something, cooking something, eating something, growing, cooking, and eating something that they know about. You know, it's not something new for them. They know about it. That's one of our plans, is to make that into like a national project, which is like, okay, how are you going to do that? That's huge, you know, it's massive. But we have that, I have that in my sights. I think probably the biggest challenge was not having enough people valuing what we were doing. But there was less response from the community. And then about 8-9 years ago, TV came, and then another TV, and then all TV from all of Tamil Nadu came, and then BBC, and then this, and then that, and TED Talks, and that, and then government. And then now there's huge recognition of this work, you know. So there's a sort of calmness about, you know, that need for it to be appreciated, you know, because when your community doesn't appreciate it, it's challenging, you know. But my community is the whole of India, and that's who's appreciating my work. Everyone's talking about climate change, everyone's talking about sustainability, health, Ayurveda, proud of their culture, but then they don't eat local food. It's the biggest contradiction that we have, and we all engage. There is what we say in India, rasa. You know, it's like, it's so meaningful. And I think that that's what you can hear people when they come and have lunch in the cafe here. They say, I feel good, you know, I feel full but not stuffed, and I feel good, I feel well. Surely that's what nutrition is, you know. It's not only, I had my carbohydrates and proteins, you know, there must be something that's something of satisfaction, dripti, we say in Tamil, you know, like satisfaction, you know, and that well-being surely carries us through. That comes from the soil, from the life of the soil, and that soil is Bhumidev, that soil is Mother Nature. I think it's about 8 to 10 tons in a year, this 5-acre farm, 5.5 acres of farm. Most of the things you wouldn't sell in a shop, banana stem, green papaya, you know, it's all things like, many things like that, you know, or wild spinaches, but all of it translates to food. We can translate that to an economic. So I think, yeah, in that level, economically you can quantify it. I think socially it's quite easy to quantify, to see how many people are touched by this. And you just can look on social media, look at the comments on YouTube, see how much it means to people. How much it's inspired people. I know many of the people doing permaculture in India, many of them have been here, many of them started here, their journey. That's very, very touching, actually, you know. I would say music and art is all like, it's like an adhesive that brings the community together. It's a very, very important celebration within a community. And for that, there has to be a sense of equality within the community, a sense of, you know, growing together. And I think when you start looking at those local foods, you start to see this is our common ground, you know, is this food. It's understanding Ayurveda, understanding the Siddha tradition, understanding the ancient foods that allowed the cultures, you know, around the world to emerge. And I think that the concepts we have of sustainability and organic farming, I think that they're actually still within the conceptual framework of a very Cartesian way of looking at farming, but without chemicals. but they're still feeding a system that is fragmented. You know, they're still looking at food for economic gain rather than nutritional value. And I think that to look at food for a nutritional value, the first thing that we have to see is that we're looking at feeding people. So to feed people, you need to look at community. You need to look at how do people have a collective nutritional cultural identity. So how do you get the identity? You get it through eating. You know, so then that leads us to the farm to plate concept, to farm to plate restaurants or farm to plate community kitchens. And, you know, you see in Auroville, although there's a lot of, I think there's quite a lot of understanding, on the subject. But if we really look at the nitty gritty, we still have potatoes and carrots served in the solar kitchen. But if the Tamil culture, for example, is so ancient and so rich and so, extraordinary, even on a sort of esoteric spiritual level, well, there were no carrots and potatoes there. So there were other foods, obviously, otherwise they didn't have bodies to grow that knowledge, So why are we not able to value those foods which would grow in the bioregion and would undermine carbon footprint, and the whole, would be real climate resilient food, and would at the same time would have an economic value, a nutritional value, a medicinal value, and I would say most importantly, and I think that this narrative is not on the table, a cultural identity, which is probably the one key thing that can make us work together. It's not about organic farming, it's about cultural, nutritional heritage and identity. Solitude really is a reflection of Mother's charter. Mother said that there should be an unending education, experimentation. There can't be a top-down control. Oh, you have to grow this and you have to do this. And there has to be a freedom. If there was not that freedom, what's happened at Solitude wouldn't have happened. If someone told me you have to grow this many lady's finger and this much this, and you have this quotas and this and that, and we want to buy all your mangoes, and this wouldn't have happened. But the profit that's coming from this now, we just gave 4.5 lakhs to the Central Fund for a 2-year period. But still, that's like, wow, which farm can do that, But actually, any farm could do this, what we're doing. This is not some special knowledge. But you need to create community. It's not a linear transaction. I grow this, I sell it, I get that money. Money is not the prime profit. The prime profit is nutritional and then community. And ironically, though, economic value is much higher. That's the irony of the whole thing, I would say it's not so much the practices of the farmers, I would say it's the consumer. So it's like when we serve banana flour, for example, here. Yesterday we had banana curry. Everyone loves it. And not just love it, they're like, wow, this is amazing, so good. But you never find it in a restaurant in Auroville. So I would say that somewhere like the Solar Kitchen, which is our community kitchen in Auroville, they should actually be with us and look at what a menu could look like from the land, and then start to say to farmers, look, this is our menu and this is what we need. How can you all participate in that? And then I would say that Auroville starts to make those solar kitchens as branches around the bioregion, and the excess of that food goes to those branches, and that we reach out to other farms with that menu and feed those branches, and then start to feed all the schools that food. Whereas if we eat potatoes and carrots and pasta that came from, very far away, and all this, and soya that came from, God knows, have you any idea where soya is grown? No idea, It all has an incredible ecological cost. But at the same time, we're talking about climate change, we're talking about sustainability, but we're the ones eating that food. So there's a gross ignorance there from everyone. It's not like one person is to blame, everybody. So until that decision is that, okay, central kitchen, first it's primarily gonna search out what are the local foods. Because there's no doubt the foods are tasty, but they're not willing to try. They're like, oh no, but people want potatoes. People want potatoes because you only feed them that. Did you try giving them taro? Hindi we call arbi, or in Tamil sepan kelanga. You know, it's an ancient food. That food has been at the foundation of many civilizations that have probably grown and died, decayed, you know. But why we don't serve it? It grows like anything. Oro Orchard, a few years ago, they had sacks of it. They couldn't sell it. So there's a huge, it's almost criminal. You know, it's almost criminal. People are buying zucchinis that come from Bangalore, but they won't use loki, soraka, the bottle gourd. But it's simply because that knowledge of how to use these things is not there. So until that's there, it's very difficult. Farmers know how to do this. It's not difficult. There's no knowledge in setting up a sustainable farming practice. There's no special knowledge. The farmers already know it. It's the consumer that we have to change. One aspect of it has been just doing traditional farming, plowing the land with bullocks, growing peanuts, growing sesame, growing dals, growing rice, varagu, you know, and a few vegetables. And then slowly, there was a shift that we saw happen. It happened actually in a very natural way. Sort of happened without us even really being, you know, aware that that was happening. But it was the philosophy of Fukuoka that was saying, stop to disturb nature, stop to try and do, stop, allow the nature to come. And the food forest all of a sudden emerged, you know, where we're sitting now with soursop, some ramphal and papayas and custard apple. And, you know, we also planted a lot of trees, chikus and mangoes and, you know, and acerolas and, you know, so many things, breadfruit and star fruit and so many things. And then we started to open this in 2006, we started the Farm to Plate Cafe. And then all of a sudden, it was like the doors were open. These are all things that you can go on Amazon now and buy. And they have a price, and they'll come in a container with a little code, and you'll buy it with your credit card. And they all grow here, but people don't know about it. So there's that evolution, and it's still growing. Our job parallel to this, the actual, you know, knowledge of these plants, I would say, was the understanding of how to try and create the community around it. This model can easily be replicated anywhere. But for it to be replicated, there has to be farm to plate. Farm to plate is the buzzword. It's the word that needs to be used instead of organic farming. That word has to be changed. Organic farming isn't anything, you know, transformative. Organic farming is the same as chemical farming, but without the chemicals. It still, you know, caters to a society that wants to eat in a very, very, you know, sort of myopic way. You know, it's eating in a way where the coin is defining the cultural, nutritional profile of the society rather than a relationship of where the food comes from. So farm to plate revolutionizes that, because farm to plate means we eat what grows in a farm and you know where it comes from. So the very philosophy inherent in those words is a transformation. We can also have this food with, you know, pizza with ragi and this and with local foods, and why not have, you know, nice cheese made by Annapurna, or, you know, with, we've done it ourselves, make local food pizza. It's amazing. We've done it for a TV show. It's very, you know, I remember the TV crew was going crazy eating that food with plantain flour and tapioca flour. It was amazing. So everything's possible. Farm to plate, you know, sums it all up, that we, you know, it negates a carbon footprint, farm to plate. It negates a loss of nutritional value. You know, it categorically represents a culture, an affirmation of a cultural, nutritional heritage and identity. You know, obviously it's, you know, you're better off economically. And we grow up with a collective value, which means that at least something everyone agrees on. You know, they agree that, yeah, this food is good. And this is our one thing where we say, this is what makes us neighbors. This is one thing that makes us a community. So I think farm to plate is the golden key, and it's the word that should start to be used and encourage people throughout the world. But farmers have to then be tied up with kitchens. It can't be chefs, today I want to cook this, and I want this, and I want... Yeah, you want this, but you want this from the farm, which is next to your kitchen, not the farm that's in America or the soya paste that came from Japan. It's not like that, you know. The chefs are chefs who are actually like pujaris. They're honoring the gifts of Mother Nature. So they have a very intimate knowledge of cultural nutritional heritage, and that is, you know, the alchemy of that is in a food, and people eat and they're like, wow, and they're well, and diabetes is gone, heart problems have gone, skin problems, this, that. People are better off emotionally, mentally, more creative, more productive, you know, in a nice way, you know. It's so obvious, all of this, you know. I would say in Auroville we're still very, very, very backward, you know. And yet we don't have to be. But we have to wake up, you know, as the whole world does.
I just arrived at Solitude Farms here in southern India. And what a beautiful place. It's really fascinating to hear Krishna talk about food and culture. And it's something I've often thought about in my own community. So I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. And we actually have a small movement of urban farming. So a lot of people taking up lots and doing farms within the community. So I really appreciate what Krishna said about bringing community and music and arts. Of course, New Orleans is a big food town and a big community town and a big music town as well. I'm a musician myself. So it's really wonderful to hear these ideas, and I have to think, well, how can I bring these home, right? So I'm thinking, okay, can I do a music event back at home with food locally grown and bring in the community and combine all of those ingredients into what we would call a gumbo in New Orleans. So it's a really wonderful idea to just kind of reconnect with what grows locally and just eat what's around you and learn, you know, how are these foods used, or what new creative ways can we use these foods. So I think it's very relevant in today's society to try to reconnect with what's around us.
Everyone is running, trying to be smart, sending their kids to America, studying AI and C++ and, you know, robotics and what have you, you know. But if we're so proud of our learning, we have to ask ourselves, well, why is there no water left in Chennai? Or in Bangalore, Hyderabad, or any of the metropolises in India, but also in England? We've completely, you know, compromised that basic need. And in America, in Australia, in Germany, as human beings, we've lost this most essential need of food and water. This whole narrative is actually about an adoration of Mother Nature, of Bhumidev, you know, the Devi, the divinity. And that adoration lies in a non-interventional way of farming, which is the natural farming, which is permaculture, that is at the heart of a reclamation of cultural identity, a cultural redemption, if you like. And that means looking at local food. And we start to see that food, growing that food, is actually an act of love. It's a bhakti. It's almost like a puja to grow that food. But to eat that food is also an act of love.